Good morning. Today we celebrate, in the middle of the octave of Christmas, the feast of the great apostle St. John the Evangelist. Of course, St. John was the only one of the 12 apostles who did not die a martyr's death, but he lived. Most ancient Christian traditions say that he lived to be about 100 years old when he finally died. But again, he's the author of the fourth gospel and also the author of the book of Revelation. However, since we are so close to the end of this calendar year of 2017, I thought I would take just a moment or two and again urge everyone, but also by way of explanation, talk a bit about the frequency with which all of us ought to go to confession or receive the sacrament of reconciliation. Now, the Church always has taught us, and it's never changed this, that if you or I are aware of the fact that we have committed a mortal sin, we are to go to confession as soon as possible and confess that sin. But until we get to confession, we may not receive Holy Communion because of the terrible nature of mortal sin itself. It completely ruptures and cuts off our relationship with God, and so we must quickly restore that relationship, and the only way to do that is by receiving the sacrament of reconciliation. In other words, confessing whatever that sin or sins are to a priest, receiving the absolution which he gives us, and then performing the penance which all of us are required to do. But also, for most of us, we periodically kind of examine our consciences and the course of our lives, whether it's going back a week, a month, a few months, or going back longer than that. What we usually discover is two things. We're not as bad as we think we are, but we always discover those venial sins which we seem to, commit over and over again, no matter how hard we try. And the sacrament of penance is a great help to us on a regular basis. And people have asked me over many years, well, how often should we go to confession? Well, the Church itself doesn't give us a timeline or a calendar for us to observe. The Church only urges us to receive this sacrament frequently. What the Church is, at least has in mind, is at least once a month. And again, it's not that every time we receive the sacrament of reconciliation, we have countless mortal sins to confess. What we need from the sacrament of reconciliation every single time we receive it are those actual graces that help us from day to day do two things. Resist and avoid the temptations to sin, which Satan always is going to put in our path. But it's not only helping us avoid temptation and sin, but the graces of the sacrament of reconciliation really, in a sense, tune up our senses to be able to distinguish that which is morally good for me to say or do or think, and that which is morally bad for me and I should avoid. The Church urges us, use this great sacrament instituted by Christ for our salvation, but use it and use it well, not only to cleanse our souls of sin and sin's effects, but to keep us strong and vigilant in our daily living of our Catholic faith. And so as we approach the end of this calendar year, and then on Monday begin a new calendar year, make this your one good, keepable New Year's resolution, that once per month I will go to confession. You and I simply can't do without these graces which God gives us so mercifully and in such abundance that any of us can afford not to go to confession. May you have a blessed and happy New Year, and may you continue to enjoy this beautiful Christmas season.